want some content? I got hot shit, but I'ma leave it to messy to gossip. Smash the like button, drop some comments, share this video, shout out to my subscribers. Let's get it on the next episode, Swahili TV. It's the Megaphone with Russell Norman. Support the channel.
Can you tell me about your first encounter with racism? Your very first encounter?
Oh, shoot, I remember it very distinctly. We had been, my parents and I, they had another couple where we used to, every other Sunday, have dinner at each other's homes.
Mm-hmm.
So they lived in the area of Louisville called the West End. And one night we were coming back from there, and I saw some bright lights in the distance. And I wanted to know what was over there. And we drove a little closer, and I could see a Ferris wheel and all these carnival rides and everything. And I had never seen it before. And I said, what is that? And my father said it was Fountain Ferry Park. Okay. Louisville is a version of Louisville.
Gotcha.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I said, let's go. And then he had to try to explain to me why I couldn't go there.
Mm-hmm. How old were you?
And that was, I don't know, maybe 6.
Wow. You remember it.
Something like that. Yes, I do.
Traumatic.
I remember to this day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's a difficult explanation for somebody to give you that has never addressed that with you before. And we had never addressed issues of race before.
Mm-hmm. Especially at 6 years old, of course.
Exactly. You just went where you went. I played in my neighborhood with my people. I went to church in my community. I did whatever, and I didn't feel like I was missing anything. You know,
Yeah.
till I saw Fountain Ferry Park.
Mm-hmm. I had my first incident in racism at Indiana Beach when I was 10. And I was called a nigger by a young white boy. Yeah, and I'll just tell this so it's out there because it's a hilarious story. I was with a friend of mine named Quentin, and he was a year older than me. We was at Indiana Beach, 1987, and we went, my mom was with her boyfriend, and we, dipped off down the beach, and we seen a park, another park. It's the parks, it's the parks, boy. So I was at a park, and we're playing, and then this white boy, he turns around and I don't know how we interacted and engaged initially, but he said, nigger. And I knew what that meant. I was 10, but I knew what it meant. My friend Quentin was eating a burger, and he threw the burger, and the burger just hit the guy's chest and slid down his chest. I remember that, so funny. But you know what I did? On my grandmother's soul, I took a running jump and I drop kicked him dead in his chest. And then we ran like hell to get on out of there. We was in Indiana and we didn't tell our parents,
You didn't tell them what happened?
Because his mom was there and it was my mom and her boyfriend, so us 5, maybe my brother was there. We didn't tell them, no.
It could have led to a lot more.
Because that's what I was going to say about your father. When you were at the diner, right? Protesting at the diner.
Oh, in the department store.
Department store.
The restaurant inside the department store.
That's reminiscent of the Woolworths protests and stuff.
That's where we went later.
Yeah, so people don't understand. 59, 60, before that, it was a life and death situation. So your mom wasn't just...
No, she was concerned.
Yeah, she was trying to save lives because a lot of people died for that.
Exactly.
So tell me, you're a prominent doctor. Where did you graduate from?
Well, I went to a lot of schools. My freshman year, I went to Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri. Then I transferred to Fisk.
Okay.
And I graduated from Fisk with my undergraduate degree.
How about afterwards?
Then I went to Boston. And I went to Boston University. And I had planned to stay there through the PhD. But Boston had runaway racism more than I had ever experienced in the South.
What they say, out the frying pan into the fire?
I didn't really care for it, so I decided I wasn't going to stay there, and I would just stop at the Masters and go somewhere else. So I'm trying to figure out where, and I'm looking into it, and I narrow it down to between Atlanta or Chicago. I was interested in Atlanta because of Atlanta University in Du Bois, because I'm a sociologist at this point. I know that's where I want to go. So I want to look at what are the pathways that the black sociologists are taking. And really, many of them went to the University of Chicago.
Okay.
So I started looking at Chicago. And Chicago turns out to look really exciting to me because lots is going on here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity. I'm looking in the American Sociologist for Jobs. There are a lot of jobs in Chicago that are happening. And then I read Crisis in Black and White and see what's going on in Woodlawn, and tensions and the activism and the everything. And then find out here's the last deciding factor, that there was 1 million black people in Chicago. I said, oh, I'm going there.
Yeah, that did it.
And so that was what changed everything that I.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, if you could nail it down, what is the inspiration that made you become a doctor?
What do you mean to get my doctorate?
Just that whole journey, that whole path, when
Well,
you just said, I'm going to do this.
sociology, you want to go to the top of your game, you know, what you can do. And there have been many people before me who have shown the way.
Like,
You know, when you look at black sociologists, you got to think about E. Franklin Frazier, Oliver Cox, Horace Caton, Sinclair Drake, Allison Davis, Bertram Doyle. All of these guys went to the University of Chicago years before then. Okay? And when I went to Lincoln, Oliver Cox and another man named George Minor, they were there. They were PhDs. They had gone and worked on their doctorates in the 30s and stuff. So what would you think we were supposed to do in the 60s?
Right.
You know, not stop. You know, then when I went to Fisk, Charles Johnson, who had been the president of Fisk when my older sister was there, he too was a sociologist. He had worked with Robert Park here at the University of Chicago. He went to the University of Chicago too. And the dorm, the classroom building where we had all our classes was called the Park Johnson Building, after the two of them. So I had seen this road. You know, it was not unknown to me.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to do research and I wanted to teach.
Well, that's good, because I was going to ask you, when you're teaching and coming up and you're basically making your bones and paying your dues, can you tell me about an incident, even if it's recent, where the weight of this racist country just broke you down entirely? Not that it beat you, but just one of your hardest moments dealing with it, because it can get pretty intense for a black woman of your stature rising up in the ranks.
Well, I cannot think of any single incident. I can think of a number of incidents that made us want to rise up and do something about it and take control and all of that. But the beauty of being here and the people that I met here is that we always felt that we could make change happen, that we didn't feel broken by it, that we didn't feel like it would break us down, that we relied on the strength of our ancestors. If they could withstand what they withstood, if they could withstand the mid-Atlantic crossing and picking cotton and being beat and lynched and all of that, just somebody calling you a nigga didn't mean nothing to me. Those things are trying to keep us down. You know, we expected it and we knew we had to move past it. So it never broke me down. What it did was urge me on.
What is your calling? If I just had to ask you in one sentence, what is Dr. Carol Adams' calling in life?
I would say organizing and teaching. I would say those things. Because I learned how to organize, and I love to teach. You know, and I love to do research.
Got you. What's your favorite, your favorite subject or topic when it comes to African American history?
Well, Probably not any one thing. I love everything that has to do with us. I think probably if I would have started at a certain point, I might have gone into archaeology because I love finding out about the things we did way, way back when. You know, in Kemet, in the Sudan, all the ways we started in Timbuktu, as we were the first people to write, to do mathematics, to study the stars, to do those things that people still often don't know. You know, we were the first people, and so we had the first knowledge. Started the first universities, everything people did thereafter came from us.
Yes,
And
indeed.
people are still discovering that, you know, that everything good came from Africa.
Tell us about, briefly, at least the name, but what is the first black civilization dating back until, you know, the first, if you can?
Well, you know, some people say that the beginning was in Kenya, that the oldest remains that they can find are in there in the older Gorge area. Other people say other things. The more science we learn and the more ways they're able to grade things, the further back things go. But they all originate on the continent of Africa.
What's the original name of Africa?
Oh, well, there are a number of those too. Now you get me where I can't remember the first name.
Is it Ethiopia?
No, it might have been Abyssinia was before Ethiopia, I think.
Okay.
But in different regions, different names.
Okay. Can you tell us about Louis Leakey and his discovery briefly?
Well, I mean, you can't say what they discovered. You can say they found out.
Okay.
They didn't discover anything.
What did they find
They
out?
just found out. We were already there. You know, so you can't get credit for finding us there. Okay? We were there, we were established, we had civilizations, we had universities, we had art, we had sculpture, we had everything. So you happened to find out. So then they give credit to the people who found it out more than the people who did it.
So what did he find out?
He
Him
discovered,
and his wife.
they discovered some things in Kenya. Just like somebody discovered the things in Kemet, or somebody else discovered the King Tut's grave, or somebody else discovered Victoria Falls and named it after Queen Victoria. But she didn't create them.
Right.
And there were people there with all of these things. So, you know, the world of scholarship would get confused and credit the person who came along, and often who came along and plundered things, you know, named it after them as opposed to the originators.
Raiders of the Lost Arks.
Raiders.
Yep. So that's like somebody coming in this house right now. You're not here. Finding this book and said they discovered this book in your house. And they said that they get more credit for the book than you do.
Hey, even if I was here, because they don't mind, you can be there.
Right. Speaking of that, and Columbus and, you know, the Native Americans. Are Native Americans just black people?
I have no idea.
Okay.
You know, I believe that people originated in more than one place, but there are also people who moved around, and we moved around. Okay, Africans moved around the globe, sailed out, set sail, were sailors. Okay, and were discoverers and adventurers and what have you. There are people who are indigenous to here. Maybe they started here simultaneously. I have no idea. You know, you got to get somebody smarter than me, one of the anthropologists.
I don't
they
know.
can remember these things, but I can't.
And some of those things we was talking about, Louis Leakey, is that why you wanted to be an archaeologist too, to sort of dispel all of the...
Louis Leakey had nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
It had to do with me wanting to be part of the discovery team, wanting to do digs, wanting to look at things, wanting to learn more, wanting to see this. It still amazes me that right now in Timbuktu, the black people, the descendants that have all those original materials, many of those original scrolls and manuscripts that give the lie to the fact that we were never people that read or didn't read or write.
Right.
You know, that shows what we did and all that, and they have had the presence of mind all these years to hide these things, to keep them from being destroyed, because the plunderers wanted to destroy any evidence that they were not the originators.
Okay. Speaking of originators and experience-wise women like yourself, you definitely are one of my mentors, my sheroes,
Thank you.
or one mentor and inspiration for how to do it. So, what would be your message to young men and women on how to combat racism in the United States?
Well, you know, I don't sit around and think about things like how to combat racism. I sit around and think about things about how to be yourself, how to come into your own, how to do the things we need to do for our community. And I say that that requires all hands on deck. Mm-hmm. That you have to get involved and engage in something. That you just trying to worry about your individual success will not ever get you or anybody else anywhere. You have to be part of a collective. You know, what really has been very instrumental for me is, you know, for lack of a better phrase, running with the right people. Meeting people who wanted to move things forward for our people, way beyond any hope for their individual wealth or their individual success. They saw the big picture, and we could work together. Yeah. And we could work together to make things happen. Mm-hmm. And that's what it requires. And it gives you the inspiration that it takes, the motivation that it takes to keep going and keep moving forward. Because somebody's gonna be there to tell you when you begin to think.
Want some content? I got hot shit, but I'ma leave it to messy to gossip. Smash the like button, drop some comments, share this video, shout out to my subscribers. Let's get it on the next episode.